We all wonder what happens when we die, but most answers feel like guesses, fragments, fading myths. Yet hidden in the pages of a forgotten manuscript lies something different, a detailed account, eerily precise, of what awaits the soul beyond the veil. It begins not with a scream nor silence, but with a soft unraveling. The body, heavy with time, exhales its last tether to the waking world, and something ancient steps forward. You may have felt it in dreams, the strange sensation of moving without walking, of being seen without form, of knowing without needing to ask. Across cultures and centuries, mystics and sages have whispered of a realm just beyond perception, a place both terrifying and tender. Not heaven, not hell, but something older than both. And then there is the book, passed through secret hands, nearly lost to flames. It tells of a path taken by every soul, a map not etched in ink, but burned into the blueprint of existence. Not metaphor, not myth, but a journey that each of us is destined to make. This is not a tale of superstition, nor a sermon of salvation. It is an invitation to remember what we forgot the moment we were born. Let us open this book together. Let us read not with eyes, but with the part of us that never dies. Let us step into the space between endings and beginnings. There is a moment still, imperceptible when the breath ceases, but the silence deepens. Doctors call it clinical death, a flat line on the monitor. The brain flickers like a dying star, but for some, something begins. A soft pull, a drift, not upward, nor downward, but inward. This moment, spoken of in hushed tones by near-death survivors, is eerily consistent across time, culture, and belief. A sense of detachment from the physical body, a growing awareness that you are not gone, only elsewhere. In the ancient Vedic texts, this was called antarabhava, the intermediate state. In the Egyptian Book of the Dead, it was the duat, the twilight corridor where souls are weighed. Tibetan monks named it the bardo, the in-between, where visions arise and karmic winds blow. Always a threshold, always a veil. But what is this veil? Not a place, but a frequency, not a border, but a change in vibration. We are taught to see death as a binary life or not life. But the soul moves like light slipping between dimensions, refracting through layers of perception. To the mystics, the veil is not an obstacle. It is a sacred membrane between form and formlessness. And those who cross it do not vanish, they remember. The book The One passed hand to hand through history's shadows begins here. It does not offer platitudes. It describes, in exacting metaphor, the soul's first sensation after departure, weightlessness, not of body, but of burden. The soul, it says, sheds memory like a serpent sheds skin. Only what is essential crosses. Time, identity, name these fall away like leaves in autumn. What remains is the echo of your choices, the texture of your intentions, and the vibration of your being. In the first pages, the text describes 3 guardians at the threshold. Not beings, but forces. Attachment what binds you back. Fear what holds you in. And recognition what opens the gate. If you meet death clinging, you linger. If you meet it trembling, you spiral. But if you meet it with stillness, you move. Here, the book aligns uncannily with modern accounts from those revived after death. The sense of traveling through a tunnel, the presence of an all-seeing awareness, the profound clarity that everything, even pain, had meaning. These are not hallucinations. It insists. They are rememberings, glimpses of the soul's native state, when it is no longer filtered by flesh. And then the book speaks of the mirror, not of glass, but of consciousness. a place where the soul is shown not what it did but what it caused. Here, we do not face judgment, we face ourselves. To read this is to feel the air grow still, to feel your own life stir behind your chest. Every thought, every cruelty, every kindness you forgot you gave. It's all there, held not in condemnation, but in illumination. The veil, it turns out, is not punishment, it is grace. A pause between stories, a stillness where the soul re-chooses its path. And though the body may be left behind, this, the presence that observes, the presence that remembers, remains untouched. As this first part of the journey ends, the text leaves us with a single line, written in faded ink. You are not the one who dies. You are the one who watches. The veil is not the end. It is the beginning of the return. The origins of the book are as mysterious as its message. No author's name, no date of creation, no known language at least, not one spoken aloud in modern tongues. Some say it was discovered in a clay jar beneath the sands of an ancient temple, etched into sheets of pressed bark and gold leaf. Others whisper it was channeled, not written by a monk who spent 40 days in silence, emerging with eyes that no longer blinked. Its pages bear diagrams that resemble mandalas, yet shift subtly each time they're viewed. Script that bends like vines, each word blooming into symbol. It has no title. Those who've glimpsed it simply call it the book that knows. For centuries, it passed through secret orders, alchemists, mystics, temple scribes, not as doctrine, but as a riddle, a mirror that only reflects when you are ready to look. In 1621, a Jesuit scholar named Elias Corvinus wrote of a text he found in a forgotten monastery near the Carpathian Mountains. He claimed it described the soul's posthumous journey with such terrifying clarity. I wept for 2 days, but his writings vanished soon after, his name erased from church records, and the monastery burned to stone. There is something about this book that resists exposure, as though its knowledge was not meant for mass consumption, as though it only reveals itself to those who seek from within. A Rosicrucian initiate once described it as a book that reads you, each passage glowing only when the reader's soul matched its vibration. One such passage, recorded in fragments, reads, "The soul leaves the body as mist leaves the lake at dawn silently, with no regret. Those who still ache for the world sink back like stones, but those who remember float." Here, we see a strange duality. The text does not urge transcendence, nor warn of punishment. It simply describes the mechanics of passage with the calm precision of one describing the movement of stars. It speaks of 7 winds the soul must pass through. Each wind represents a veil of illusion. The wind of identity, the wind of time, the wind of desire, the wind of regret, the wind of knowledge, the wind of silence, the wind of light. As the soul moves, it is stripped not violently, but necessarily, like returning to water after forgetting you were ever made of it. Some parts of the book are impossible to decipher, ink that fades as you look, symbols that change depending on the moon, entire sections that appear only in dreams. Scholars who've tried to translate it have given up, but mystics, those who felt rather than analyzed, reported visions. They described a chamber of mirrors, where the soul sees every version of itself across lifetimes. Not just past lives, but possible lives, the paths not taken, the selves unlived. One woman claimed she found a single page under her pillow after a near-death accident. On it were only 5 words. "You were always already here." Another man, a physicist turned mystic after a stroke, claimed the book explained non-locality not as a theory but as a memory of the soul being everywhere it ever touched love. The whispers grow louder the more we listen. And yet, no copy of the book survives intact. It arrives in fragments, in dreams, in sudden insights during meditation, as if the book itself exists in a dimension just adjacent to ours, not made of paper, but of remembrance. Its message is clear, even in shadow. Death is not an event. It is a passage, a remembering, a return. But what exactly does the soul return to? That the next chapter reveals, and once seen, it cannot be unseen. If this mysterious book is to be believed, then death is not a wall, but a corridor lined with echoes, a path traced long before we were born. The soul, it says, doesn't wander blindly after release. It follows a map. But this map is not geographical. It does not mark distance, but frequency. Each destination in the afterlife corresponds not to a place, but to a state of being. In one of the book's more intact passages, sketched in concentric circles like ripples in water, we see a structure eerily reminiscent of the ancient cosmologies, the Sephirot of Kabbalah, the astral spheres of Hermeticism, the layered heavens of Dante's Divine Comedy. The text describes 7 realms of the returning soul, each more subtle than the last. And yet none are permanent. Each is a reflection of the consciousness that enters it. The first realm, the realm of reflections. Here, the soul encounters an exact replica of the life it left behind, but without consequence, a kind of spiritual echo chamber, where unresolved desires play themselves out like faded dreams. It is seductive. Many stay here for what feels like eternity, reliving what was, trying to rewrite what cannot be changed. The second realm, the realm of the hungers. Here, lingering attachments manifest as spectral mirages, loved ones, regrets, addictions, beliefs. It is a place where the soul is tempted to turn backward. But if it releases these echoes, it moves on. The third realm, the realm of the heart's weight. In this realm, judgment is not imposed. It is experienced. The soul feels the weight of its actions as vibrations sharp, heavy, or light. There is no punishment, only resonance. The fourth realm, the realm of unveiling. Here, the soul begins to see beyond identity. Memories of past lives flicker like constellations. It becomes clear life was not a straight line, but a spiral. Each life a note in a larger symphony. The fifth realm, the realm of the others. Here, the soul meets other consciousnesses not as individuals, but as shared archetypes, guides, ancestors, beings of light, not entities, but reflections of deeper wisdom. The text warns, "Speak not with your mouth, but with your meaning." Communication here is telepathic, emotional, symbolic. One soul described meeting a library made of song. The sixth realm, the realm of the void. This is the silence before creation. Dark, vast, but not empty, full. A stillness so profound that even thought disappears. Most souls turn back here. Few pass through. But for those who do, the seventh realm, the realm of return. There is no image for this place. Only a single phrase is recorded in the book. That which returns was never apart. Here, the soul dissolves into source. Not loss, but merging. Individuality melts into the all, but awareness remains. The journey is complete. Not because it ends, but because it never began. What is most striking is that this map mirrors nearly all esoteric traditions. The ancient Egyptians spoke of 7 gates the soul must pass, each with a guardian and a question. In Theosophy, there are 7 planes of existence, each more rarefied. Sufi mystics speak of 7 valleys the seeker must cross to dissolve the self. The book doesn't invent, it remembers. and it dares to say your destination is shaped by your vibration, not your religion, not your name, but the frequency of your being. Every act of kindness raises your tone. Every act of cruelty lowers it. The afterlife is not imposed upon you. It is drawn to you. You are not judged. You are harmonized. The soul is like a tuning fork, and the realms, they are chambers that echo its note. And perhaps most haunting of all, the book suggests we've been here before. These realms are not new to us, only forgotten. What awaits is not foreign but familiar. A homecoming without map or compass, because the map was always inside us. There comes a point in the book, subtle, easily missed, where the language shifts. The poetic diagrams fade. The symbolic maps give way to something quieter, almost reverent, as if the scribe, whoever or whatever it was, paused in mid-vision and began to feel instead of record. It is here the journey becomes personal, no longer a cosmic map for all, but a hushed unfolding of what the soul, each soul, may endure as it journeys inward, not across space, but through memory, emotion, and unspoken longing. The soul, according to the text, enters a passage of silence. Not emptiness, but a silence filled with meaning, like a room where every breath echoes with lifetimes. It is described as a kind of inner sanctum, a chamber within the soul itself, where no guide can follow and no illusion can enter. This is not the purgatory of fear-based religions. This is something sacred. The silence serves one purpose: to reunite the soul with its original frequency. You see, the book insists that before incarnation, the soul hums with a unique note, a tone of perfect resonance with the source. But life, with its distractions and wounds, distorts that note. And so, after death, there is this silence, a tuning room for the eternal. In this place, memories flow like rivers, not as stories, but as vibrations. You don't recall your childhood. You feel it ripple through your essence. That moment you held your mother's hand as a child, it pulses as warmth in the left side of your being. That word you spoke in cruelty at age 16, it trembles as a cold knot just beneath your light. Each experience becomes music, and in the silence, you hear the symphony you created. Not good or bad, just dissonance or harmony. And then the book says the soul chooses not its reward, not its punishment, its next step. Here, in the still center of the journey, you ask not, "What did I do, but what do I now long to become?" This is the point of soul alignment, where all karmic strands gather like threads in the hand, and the soul begins to weave its return. But there is more. The book introduces a figure, not a god, not an angel, but an archetype that appears across countless mythologies, the silent companion. In Egyptian myth, it is Ma'at, the feather of truth. In Gnostic texts, it is Sophia, the feminine wisdom. In Eastern traditions, it is the inner teacher, the one who watches through your eyes in every life. This being does not speak, it mirrors. In the silence, you face it, and in it, you see yourself as you truly are. Naked of belief, beyond personality, pure essence. Many weep here, not from sorrow but recognition. The book does not dwell long on this moment. It offers no parable, no commandment, only a single enigmatic verse. To the one who sees without eyes, the universe unfolds like breath. And then the soul begins to move again, not forward, not backward, but deeper. Into what the book calls the Great Rejoining, a place where individual sparks of consciousness begin to reunite with their greater flame. Some describe this as a realm of colors never seen, others as a merging with other lifetimes, selves you've been, and selves you've yet to become. Here, time folds, the self expands, and you realize something astonishing. You were never a single life. You were a thread in a great woven mind. And so the journey continues, but quieter now, less like a path, more like a remembrance. In the silence, the soul doesn't vanish. It becomes what it always was, awake. But this awakening, this deep inner recognition, is not the end of the mystery. Because in the next pages of the book, the soul begins to hear something new. Not memory, not past, but voices. Not of angels, not of gods, but of science, modern, cutting edge, whispering truths that echo what the ancients already knew. For centuries, the sacred and the scientific were torn apart, as if mystery had no place beneath microscopes, as if the soul could be dismissed because it could not be measured. But the book, that ancient, impossible manuscript, speaks in symbols that now echo eerily in the corridors of modern labs. It begins subtly, a passage almost too poetic to take seriously. That which observes cannot be observed, yet all things reflect its eye. At first glance, metaphor. But to a physicist versed in quantum theory, this is an uncanny description of the observer effect, the strange phenomenon where particles behave differently when they are watched. Why does the act of observation alter reality? And who, or what, is the ultimate observer? In the last 50 years, science has begun to brush against truths once relegated to mystics and monks. Near-death experiences, NDEs, long dismissed as hallucinations, are now being studied with clinical rigor. Doctors like Dr. Sam Parnia at NYU Langone have collected data from cardiac arrest patients whose brains had flatlined yet reported vivid, coherent experiences during death. Floating above their bodies, reviewing their lives in panoramic detail, encountering beings of light and unconditional love. Their stories mirror almost verbatim the journey described in the mysterious book. Not one or two cases, thousands. Consistent, detailed, unexplained. One patient described being shown a wheel of selves, versions of himself that could have existed, each spinning like spokes on a vast cosmic hub. He was told, choose the next one. The doctors dismissed it as fantasy. But a theoretical physicist in the room reportedly whispered, that sounds like decoherence. Quantum decoherence, the splitting of probabilities into multiple realities. Every choice you make births another path. Could the afterlife not be a static place, but a navigation through your own quantum potential? The book seems to suggest so. In a fragmented page, it describes the soul's departure as a collapse of waveform into memory, a line uncannily similar to modern explanations of wave function collapse, where observation selects a single outcome from infinite possibilities. And what of entanglement? Einstein called it spooky action, at a distance the ability of two particles to mirror each other instantly, regardless of space. But mystics call it something else, love. Not emotion, not romance, but the deep, intrinsic connection between all things once joined. The book speaks of this too. What was felt in truth can never be severed. Souls that touched will echo forever. It describes souls traveling in clusters, not alone returning together, again and again, across lifetimes, drawn by resonance, not fate. Is this not what modern regression hypnotherapists report? Clients recognizing strangers as lifelong companions, children recalling past lives with verifiable detail names, dates, places they've never seen. There are documented cases. A boy in India recalling the names of his previous parents, later confirmed. A girl in the U.S. recounting the sinking of a Wubby vessel she could never have known existed. Adults suddenly fluent in languages they never studied, under trance. Science cannot explain it, yet it cannot deny it. And then there is consciousness itself, the great unsolved riddle. Where is it located? How does it arise? Why can no brain scan ever find the I that thinks? Some researchers now suggest consciousness is not in the brain. The brain is a receiver like a radio, and the soul, the signal. This is what the book has whispered all along. The body is the harp. The soul is the song. What happens when the harp breaks, the song does not end. It returns to the air, to be sung again in another form. Perhaps it is no longer mysticism. Perhaps it is physics we do not yet understand. One line from the book, buried in the margins, remains untranslated except by those who've claimed to feel its meaning. When the veil is thinnest, science and spirit kiss. And maybe that kiss, that moment of convergence, is not in the future. Maybe it is happening now. In labs, in visions, in the quiet realization that death was never the opposite of life. It was the continuation of consciousness into form unseen. But the book does not stop here. In its final, most guarded pages, it warns of truths once forbidden wisdom so powerful it was hidden until now. There are pages in the book that resist reading, ink that shifts in the light, symbols that seem to shimmer, then fade, words that feel alive, pulsing beneath the surface like heartbeat beneath skin. Scholars who've attempted to transcribe them report strange dreams, an overwhelming sense of déjà vu, or the eerie sensation that the book was reading them back. These pages, often sealed or hidden, are referred to in the margins by a name, the Chamber of Keys. And what lies within them is not comfort, it is power. Power long buried, power once feared. Because these chapters do not merely describe the afterlife, they reveal why we forgot it. The book speaks of a fracture in human memory, an event or perhaps a choice that veiled our collective remembrance of what lies beyond death. It calls this moment the Great Severing. Not a punishment, not a fall, but a necessary forgetting. For the soul to learn, the text whispers, it must believe it is alone. Here lies the great paradox of existence. We are eternal, infinite consciousness forced to forget our infinity in order to truly experience limitation, love, pain, and wonder. But in forgetting, we became afraid. And in fear, some sought control. The forbidden pages describe an ancient priesthood, not of any single culture, but a recurring archetype across civilizations. Keepers of gateways, guardians of threshold rites. At first, protectors of sacred knowledge. But over time, they withheld. Initiation became hierarchy. Wisdom became weapon. And so, the truths about the soul's journey, truths once shared freely, were buried beneath temples, rewritten into myths, or labeled heresy. The Egyptian rituals of the Duat, the Tibetan Bardo teachings, the Eleusinian mysteries of rebirth, all suppressed, fragmented, or lost. What remained was doctrine, not direct experience. The book names this era the Age of Sleeping Light. And it is not ancient history, it is now. We are still wandering through that forgetting, still sleepwalking through our mortality. But there is a shift. In the last century, something has begun to stir. More people are reporting death-like visions without dying during meditation, plant medicine, trauma, or dreams. More children are born with remembering eyes, more synchronicities, more spontaneous awakenings, more whispers of a veil thinning. And the book, it appears again, not physically, but in fragments, in scattered parchments, in translated dreams, in whispered phrases spoken by those who've been there. The knowledge that was once forbidden is rising again, not to empower elites, but to awaken all. One of the final sealed pages, only visible under starlight according to legend, contains a single symbol, a spiral within a flame. Below it, 4 words. Death is the doorway home. But it is not the end of the revelation. The last lines of this section are not a warning. They are a summons. The time of remembering has begun. The keys are within you. What was hidden must now return. The door is opening. And what lies beyond that door? The final part of the book does not speak in riddles. It does not whisper in metaphor. It looks us directly in the soul and tells us what we all must one day face. Not with fear, but with awe. There comes a point in every journey, ancient or modern, mythic or mortal, where the path narrows, where teachings fade, and only the walker remains. The final pages of the mysterious book do not guide. They witness. Gone are the diagrams, the symbols, the sacred metaphors. What remains is stillness, and a single question. Are you ready to open the door? But this door is not physical. It is not found in temples, not summoned by ritual. It lives within the soul, a threshold woven into our very being. You may have felt it in moments of great loss, or deep surrender, that uncanny awareness that something ancient was watching you from the other side. Not as a stranger, but as a memory you hadn't yet lived. The book calls this threshold the Great Return. Not death, but re-entry. The soul, it says, doesn't dissolve into nothing. It returns to something greater than self, yet never loses its uniqueness. Like a wave returning to the ocean, not gone, but home. Here, the book becomes more personal than ever before. It speaks not to all souls, but to yours. You who are reading, you have been here before. These words are not metaphor. They are activation. You have known this door, in dreams, in déjà vu, in the ache that no success can soothe. Because deep within, every soul carries a yearning for return, not to a place, but to a state of unity, of wholeness, of remembering that you were never separate to begin with. The book speaks of this not as escape, but as fulfillment. And yet, the door cannot be forced. It opens only when two keys turn at once: readiness and surrender. Readiness, the soul's maturity, its ability to hold paradox. Surrender, the letting go of control, identity, even the desire to know. Many souls reach the threshold but hesitate, and that is not failure. The book is clear. All shall pass through in their own season of light. And then, at the very end, in ink so faded it nearly disappears, is the last revelation. Not a statement, a remembering. The door was never locked. Only your eyes were closed. You may wonder, is this book real? Is this simply myth wrapped in metaphor? But ask yourself, why does your heart recognize what your mind resists? Why does a part of you already know that death is not the end, but the opening of a truth too vast for words? Perhaps that is the final teaching, not written, but lived. Death is not the extinguishing of the flame. It is the moment we realize we were never the candle, but the light. So when that day comes, as it will for all, do not fear. You are not ending. You are returning. You are not falling. You are remembering how to rise. And the book, the mysterious book, it was never outside of you. It was your soul, whispering through every lifetime. Come home.